What's up, guys? Thomas Mott here alongside Josh Davis. It is Wednesday, 7 p.m. on the East Coast, and time for the Wednesday Linc Live. We're live for the next hour and change, going over all the latest NFL and Philadelphia Eagles stuff that's happening this week as we march through the worst month of the year. That is the month of June, because there's very little football, but yet there's still things going on. Josh, good evening. How are you?
Good evening. I'm doing well, about as well as you can be. Like you say, in this month, we're getting closer to training camp, but it's the story that I think you said we're all saying at this point. It's like there's only so much we could talk about. There's almost only so much time that we could kill. We're ready for training camp to get here, but it's like, what else are you going to do in the meantime? So, at least we've gotten a little storylines. It was fun to see some beer chugging today and some other cool events going on in Philly, but just whatever you can do to kill time.
I do want to throw a little of a wrench here because we just talked about our first topic. I'm going to throw a wrench in. I want to start with the gambling news because it's not Philadelphia Eagle based, but it is worth mentioning to at least get ahead of in case something were to drop that could be Philadelphia Eagle based. You don't know what I'm talking about. If you guys are watching us as you're coming in here, here's the headline. Colts Isaiah Rodgers, other NFL players facing full season 2023 suspensions for gambling violations. Adam Schefter had this one earlier today and essentially cites that Isaiah Rodgers is the only player named, but there are several NFL players who will be facing full season suspensions, the same that Calvin Ridley got last year for sports gambling. And while Isaiah Rodgers is a Colt and he's more of a special teams corner sort of guy, we at least have to mention, Josh, we got to hope and pray there are no Eagles on this list, because this right here is a season ruiner if one of your starters does not play for a year because he gambled on football games.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, again, hope and pray. I would think that it's not, because what was it? Whenever it first came out with the Lions had some players that were impacted or they were either gambling at the team's facility. I can't remember the full details of the story, but they violated the league's rules, and then there's some suspensions and there's some things that go down there that I believe it was in one of Nick Sirianni's press conferences, but they asked him about it and he said, yes, we're very clear cut. We tell the players, we're reinforcing it. We're telling it all the time. So again, you don't know until this report comes out. It's always scary as soon as you see other NFL players. It's like, okay, who are those players? So I want to think that this is a group that is very, hey, we're going to tell exactly the way it is. It's black and white. Like, these are the things that you do. This is what you don't do. And a lot of the players had spoken out about that as well, and including, I think, Lane Johnson and some others, of saying, yep, you know what, we don't deal with it. We don't mess with it, especially on the team's facility. So, fingers crossed that we don't get some terrible news, because as Nick Sirianni said, between now, or I guess when they ended OTAs, between OTAs and training camp, show up in the best shape of your life and stay out of the news. So that would be one of those that you definitely don't want to be in the news for.
It is wild that, literally the entire season, it's suddenly gone from you if you were to do something like that. And it is wild that they'll announce somebody, but not announce the rest of them, right? Isaiah Rodgers, it's like, hey, it's you, but we have other guys because we're waiting to, I don't know, research? Like what's the reasoning? So I don't know, but it is worth at least getting ahead of in case there are issues here. This could impact backups and not be a big deal. It could impact starters for other football teams. Would be a massive deal. You'd like to think a starter would know better, but then again, we've seen people make bad mistakes in the past. So we shall see. We shall see.
Yep. Hopefully there's nothing crazy. And like you mentioned there, it's like, if they're telling this with a player, you would assume that they're going to lead with like the player that's the most prominent, maybe. So it's okay, there's not like a big name, but you just don't know. So it could be crazy where just earth-shattering information, whether it's an Eagles player, hopefully not, or just even someone else around the league. So we'll see. I know that Brian's asking, can they gamble on any other sport but football? That, to my knowledge, they can't gamble on anything in the team's facility. They can gamble on other sports and go to casinos and all that, but that has to be on their own time and definitely nothing to do with the NFL. So there's a little bit of leeway, but when you're in the NFL like that, my thought or theory would be, why risk it? Maybe the occasional, like, you're just going to go to the casino with some friends or whatnot, but like, for the most part, it just don't deal with it. So hopefully there's no obviously gambling on the NFL, but if you're in the team's facility, like, stay off DraftKings, stay off whatever platform you're going to use. Like, just don't do it. Don't do it there.
Well, we'll end with this thought and then get into your show today. You can go to cue that one up, but there is, but maybe this is like the Ridley thing, where Ridley's the first example being made, and you sure the people were placing betting before, and they just made an example out of Ridley. So you wonder if they got people pre-Ridley, and now they're going to announce it. I don't know, but we shall see. It could be a big deal, could be a small deal, it could be no deal at all.
Hopefully so. Yes, I agree. So I don't know. It's very easy in this day and age too. I mean, like we were
Of
talking about,
course.
but like I play a lot of different platforms, DraftKings, there's the Prize Picks, there's lots of other ones that you can play, and I love it. But
Yeah.
again, I'm not an NFL player, so it wouldn't be like, oh, I can't do it in a certain area. So
Right. Right.
we'll see. But yeah, no, to your point though, talking about obviously lots of other news or breaking down as we're leading up to training camp. I know we've got some different topics. So I kind of posed the question because saw Jeff Kerr from CBS that was talking about the linebacker position and, just questioning, okay, we've got Nakobe Dean. He's got the green dot. I think everybody would go in. I've seen maybe a few comments, but I don't know if that's serious or people trolling. But Nakobe Dean is pretty much solidified. Like, that's not going to change. We're going to see what he does this season, and
Yeah.
hopefully he plays well. I think that he will. I think that you think that he's going to, but still, we got to see it. But then that second spot, it's like, okay, Nicholas Morrow is the guy that you acquired from the Bears. He's right now atop the depth chart, but is he going to remain there? Is there someone else? And Jeff Kerr threw out the possibility, saying his contract is a no guaranteed contract. As much as we knock on the Rashad Penny deal of saying, well, his is no guaranteed,
Right.
and he could be cut or he could not make the roster. I think that Morrow is going to make the roster. I'm not saying that, but Jeff Kerr's argument is he may not start. He didn't think that he would. So it's either an option of you go pick someone up like on free agency, and he said it feels very similar to C.J. Gardner-Johnson. So just looking into that a little bit further, I don't know. I just posed some other thoughts of, is there someone else on the team like a Christian Ellis, or is there a linebacker out there that you're interested in? So I guess curious to take your thoughts on that as well.
I see MHT J Rock said the thoughts on trading for Patrick Queen. There's
There you
nobody
go.
who's there's no sourcing behind Patrick Queen, which we always emphasize on the live shows. There's no
Right.
sourcing behind this stuff. But that is a great point about Nicholas Morrow. Now, I've always been a Morrow guy just based on the fact that he was the leading tackler for the Bears last year and seemingly was one of those underrated, no-name players who could come in and be serviceable at linebacker, which is how we want. So you just be good. Don't have to be great at linebacker. But I do feel like there could be a situation where you get to training camp, you make some phone calls. And my question with Patrick Queen is, what would he cost? Because we talked about, Isaiah Simmons is virtually gone. He's converting to safety or cornerback, whatever it is. We talked about that before. But if Queen cost you a 6th-round draft pick and you pay his contract for one season and then let him go, I mean, what are we talking about here? It can't be that
Exactly.
expensive. So either they don't want Patrick Queen, they don't feel they need Patrick Queen, or they're asking way too much. Because if they really thought they needed him and the asking price was a 6th-round draft pick, with all the picks they have last or next year, that they'd make that phone call. So I'm fine with it. I just think we don't know. And the problem is we all get so hyped over OTA footage, and we all get so hyped over the OTA reports because people are at
Yeah.
training camp and, oh, Quez Watkins looks really good. Oh, there's like 10 videos on that. Oh, DeAndre Swift catches balls well in the backfield. Woo. Oh, Jalen Carter's really fat. All this stuff
Yep.
comes
Yep.
up. And then you think about it and you go, okay, I know we have nothing else to talk about, so give us what you have, which is padless practices, but it's also a padless practice. So we need padded practices, and I really think we need preseason games to determine this sort of thing. I think you're going to see the starters be Morrow and Dean by preseason game 1, and if things get hairy, or if Christian Ellis comes in and a second string effort in a second quarter of the first preseason game, or, insert Sean Bradley, Davion Taylor, they play better. Maybe the game 2, you'll have a different starting linebacker core, and they'll kind of move people around until they know who it is. I'm sure they have an idea. I'm sure they have a guess on who their starters are. I'd be shocked
Surely.
if they knew who their starters were right now.
I agree. Yes, I think you're right on. They have an idea, and it probably is Morrow because you're playing him at first team reps. Although there's still a long way to go, like you mentioned. But it wouldn't surprise me. Yes, if first preseason game you do see Morrow in there, but I've said this on a number of shows, on the live shows as well. I don't think that it'll be Morrow by week 1. Whether that is Christian Ellis, I think that if Howie stays put and he's like, nope, we've got the guy, it's going to be someone on the roster, I think it'll be Christian Ellis. Or if not, then he goes and gets a guy off free agency, or he makes a trade. I would be very surprised, and I talked about in the show today, I'd love Patrick Queen. I think a lot of us would, especially if you get him for a very cheap price, like you mentioned. It's a rent a player for a season and then
Right.
just figure out something else next year. But it just, like, that's not what he's going to do. I just can't see him doing. I would love it. I would love it if he goes off script and for once he spends a little bit. It's not even a lot, but a little bit on a linebacker. But I highly doubt that. I think either it's going to be pick up a free agent, and I don't know that I just love a lot of the free agents. I think Zach Cunningham is one name out there that I could potentially get behind if we're going to go the free agent route. Or again,
Right.
you just look at who you have on the roster. And I like the potential of a Christian Ellis because it reminds me, and Who knows if he turns into this? But TJ Edwards, undrafted free agent, he's got some size, got some physical ability. He's kind of passionate as far as Christian Ellis playing on special teams. He's made waves. He's actually made some headlines, at least is playing a very good position there and making impact in special teams. So you see that and the very small sample size from OTAs, but what does that mean really? So I don't know. I'm rooting for Christian Ellis because I think that's always cool, an underdog story, a guy who's been with Philly like that. But we'll see. We won't know, probably, like you said, until the bats come on and you're playing against a competition and really opponents most likely, which means in the preseason.
The first real practice reports that I take to heart are when you actually get to A, padded, but B, joint practices, because joint practices are very live and very real. And you start hearing reports of Jalen Hurts looks really good in this joint practice. We had that early last year. It's like he's shredding whoever it was, the Patriots and the Browns, I think, were the joint practices last year. He's shredding them. You start to go, okay, that's a little bit better than Jalen Hurts is shredding the Eagles defense because it's training camp. And you're like, okay, how much do you actually believe in that? So we will definitely see. We want to mention before we go ahead and get going, a lot of people joining a little bit later here as we get started. Any super chat you drop between now and the preseason has a chance to win Eagles tickets. $1 super chat is one entry, and the dollar amount goes with the entry amount. So 100 entries is $100. So if you guys want to win 2 tickets to an Eagle game of your choice during the regular season, drop a super chat during the show. You guys know the drill on that one. We will let in a couple of people who are joining. Tyler Wallace is joining us from Japan right now. He made it on time.
Tyler, what's up?
Don't know what time it is, Tyler. We also don't know when your Jalen Carter jersey is going to ship because they haven't shipped yet. I've got no email on the shipping. It's unbelievable how long it's taking. It's unbelievable.
It's still processing at the moment.
We should have bought printers ourselves and knit them for you. It would have been much faster. We could have learned how to do it and made it much faster.
Probably so at this point. Which I mean, maybe it means that there's so many jerseys people bought that it's just taking them so long. But I would have assumed for sure that by now we'd have at least gotten, hey, it's shipping. Whether that means it'll get there in a couple weeks, who knows? But yeah, that's crazy. I appreciate you joining, Ty. What time is it in Japan right now?
I don't know. My brother moved back from Japan. He was there for 3 years, and the time changes were nuts. His morning was my night, and my night was his morning. So it'd be like good night as I woke up, and then good morning, and that was it. So it's
very
reversed.
brief
I think it's
connect.
morning. It's probably morning in Japan right now.
Okay.
Brian Biting is in. Do we still have 4 open roster spots? Great question. I don't think we do. I think it's less than that, but don't quote me on that. Not sure. Thoughts on Devontae Parker?
It was 1 or 2, but
it was less than 4. Less than 4. Thoughts on Devontae Parker signing? What does that mean for D-Hop to New England? Did you see that, Josh? It happened like 5 minutes ago.
Right before we hopped on here. So
Devontae Parker signs with the Patriots. That would tell you that you would think D-Hop doesn't go, but if he doesn't go there, Texans, Panthers, and Browns are the other options, and Titans, right? Those are the 4 we're hearing. So,
which, he said he wanted to play for a contender, but everyone does.
None of those are contenders.
Whenever it comes to shove, you see he's about the contract. He wants the money. He wants to get paid, and more power to him if that's what he wants to do. But you're not going to win a Super Bowl unless something crazy were to happen in the next couple seasons. But still, that's not really giving yourself the best chance. You could go to other teams and take a pay cut, but it doesn't sound like he's wanting to do that.
I've thought about this too. Like, you get to a point in your career, he's not going to win one. Okay. So what? He was never going to be considered the greatest receiver of all time, right? Normally people who are ring chasing want to be up in that, consideration for greatest of your position for your era, or, trying to be one of the top 10 running backs of all time. So you go somewhere else. But I mean, he's great, but he's never going to be considered the greatest of the past 20 years. And so maybe you just get your bag and you live happily in a mansion with supercars and have a great time for your kids and your grandkids and your grandkids' kids. And, that's it. Because, I mean, think about it, right?
It's not the worst.
It's not the worst idea ever. I mean, sure, I would love to be known as the world's greatest marketer, but if you paid me a lot more money to not be the world's greatest marketer, it's like, okay, well, I could be like a pretty good marketer, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
There you go.
It's weird. It's weird.
That's true. That is a good point.
A Heavens says, can I have a shout out? There you go. You got
What's
one.
up?
A Heavens. I don't recognize A Heavens. Could be new. He could be new. A lot of new subscribers. Josh is over 7,000 and approaching my 13 very quickly. We will get to the point where we will 2 roads, 2 paths diverge on a road or whatever it is, and we're going to be tied up here pretty soon. So a lot of new subscribers might be joining. We welcome all of you guys, all of them.
Good to see everybody.
Josh is short, by the way, because we're giving Josh some love right now. If you missed the AJ Brown short, where have you been? Because 150,000 people watched that short, baby. That's the biggest any sort of content either of us have ever put out. That's massive.
I did not expect it. It had like 20,000, 30,000
Good
views,
stuff.
and we were texting about it. And then all of a sudden,
Good
like,
stuff.
I didn't even check it for, I think, a day. And then it was like, oh my gosh, it's at 50 or 60,000. It just keeps going. So I appreciate it. But
Fun stuff.
that's
Fun
enough
stuff.
about me.
Shorts. We've been putting shorts up, guys. Watch the shorts. They're very fun. Andrea is putting 20 into the pot to win some
Andrea.
tickets. Missed last week. Happy to be able to make it this week. Thanks for the jersey ship update. Was just about to ask. Yeah, sorry, Andrea. There is no jersey ship update. I mean, literally, like Scout's honor, right? Were you a Boy Scout, Josh? I was a Boy Scout.
I was not. No, I did not have the
No
fortune of
Scout's
that.
honor for
No.
Josh. We'll take my Scout's
But
honor here.
I mean,
think it's
you can take
this,
my
right?
word for it. It hasn't.
No, it's
it
not the same
hasn't
weight.
shipped
It's Scout's
yet,
honor.
so, but
That's it. But it hasn't shipped. It really hasn't. I promise. I paid for this thing like months ago, and it still hasn't shipped.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
nothing to show for our credit card bills. But what are you gonna do? Jose, but we do have 20 entries, Andrea. We appreciate you as always.
Got you down.
Got you down for the jersey giveaway. Jose says, "Shout me out, Mott. It's my first time too." Boy, a lot of first timers. Welcome. Make sure you hit the
What's
thumbs up
up?
button. We'd appreciate that. Thumbs up would be very nice. Did you see? So my show today, I read an article. It was again one of those off-season articles that was asking you, what if the Carolina Panthers traded Terrace Marshall because they already have other wide receivers, and he went to the Eagles? And it was like, okay, well, we can at least talk about it. I love that guy, Marshall, coming out of LSU. He was the other receiver on that Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, insane LSU championship team.
Yeah.
Second round draft pick. I think it was second round for Carolina. Never did anything. And there's the argument that he never had a quarterback. And so whatever. Big physical, down the field threat. I'm fine with it, as I said in my show today, but I'd be curious where you're at on that. Do you even want to mix in another receiver for the number 3 spot? Or do you think we have enough going for that one, 40 catch position a year right now?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know. To me, I am right there with you as far as like, let's not muddy the waters more than it already is, because well, like we've mentioned several times, I mean, again, you only have so many mouths to feed, and the way that this group is now, granted, injuries could happen. Knock on wood, fingers crossed. Hopefully that doesn't, and we stay healthy. But if an injury happens, there's only so much preparation you could do, and it feels like there's like a tightrope or a fine line of where's the team chemistry and how much is that being impacted by bringing in players that are going to potentially fight for a starting job. Now
Sure.
Again, competition is definitely good. I'm not saying that. It's like, okay, let's not have any guys compete for a starting spot.
Right.
But you've got your solidified guys. You've got AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. You're going to have the running backs in there and mix it with DeAndre Swift in the passing game, Kenny G. So there's tons of offensive weapons. And then the question is, what's that wide receiver 3 spot? Now, I think that it's going to be Quez, but it could be Olamide Zaccheaus.
Sure.
It could be somebody else that really shocks us and surprises. But I think it'll be between those two. But I like what those two bring to the table, whether it's Oz and whether it's Quez. I think that we're going to be fine there. So to me, I'm like, you've got some other potentials that you brought to OTAs, you're bringing to training camp. To me, I'm like, let's just see what they can do. Let's see the guys that we have right now. Let's not add another one to the mix. And but again, we always talk about some names, and there's
Sure.
guys that Howie's going to leave no stone unturned, so he's going to check it probably, and he's seeing everyone out there as a potential. But yeah, for me, I'm like, probably not.
Previous years where Philadelphia had major holes at key positions like wide receiver, they would call Carolina and ask, but there just isn't a major hole. There just isn't like we got to get.
It's great to have 2 wide receiver ones and the top 2 or 3 tight end in the league as well. So
it helps. It definitely helps. Alfonso jumping in with the 10 entry super chat into our ticket giveaway. I just want to shout out my girlfriend, Michelle. Love you to the moon and back. Alfonso getting brownie points here.
Got you
Oh
down.
my goodness. Now my girlfriend's going to want me to drop a super chat and shout her out. I mean, it's the only way to do it.
Do I get to keep all of the super chat if you do that? Or
I think I have to.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't keep my own super chat. If you want to shout your girlfriends out, Alfonso has started the train there. So if you want to hop aboard, that's the way to do it. Shout out to Michelle, though. Apparently, Alfonso loves you very much, to the moon and back, which is
there you go.
Very
That's
good
awesome.
stuff there.
What's up, Michelle? Go Birds.
You also get 10 entries. So you get brownie points and 10 entries in a ticket giveaway where you could also take your girlfriend. So, there's that. Danza says, can I have flights as well? No, we will not pay for your flights. He's also in High Wokum. How do you say that? Wokum, England. I will not be paying that Heathrow to Philadelphia flight. No, we are just doing tickets and tickets only.
Yeah,
game tickets, not plane tickets. Game.
Unfortunately, yeah,
we don't make that much money.
Just covering the tickets there. That's more than enough. I don't know what it costs, but it's way more than what we're going to be able to afford. So
not cheap. Not cheap. But again, if you guys want to get your entries in, go ahead. Did you see BG's interview on with Derek Gunn on Jacob Media? Did you see that one?
Oh yeah,
Good.
love that one. Yeah,
I liked
and
it.
Jacob and the Jason Kelsey, both those were
Both
phenomenal.
of them were very good. I was very interested in well, there's two parts of this. Both talked about the Super Bowl, right? Kelsey talked about Jalen Hurts still being upset, which we could do. But I think BG mentioning the slipping and sliding is totally fair. And it got really popular on
Completely.
social media. Like people love to go, oh, well, both teams were playing on the same field. And so obviously it's not an excuse. And yet you sit back and go, if it would have been a better turf, could the Eagles at least gotten to Patrick Mahomes once? And you go, yes. Could that have made a difference? Maybe, right? You're not going to sit here and cry about it. And BG wasn't. He was just saying, hey, just say the offensive line got lucky, but they did well. We couldn't get a stop, move on. I thought they were fine. It was a fine comment, and I totally agree. If that's a normal field, if that's the Linc, and it's not raining, and it's perfect weather, there's at least 3 sacks of Patrick Mahomes, right?
Oh, for sure.
100%. 100%.
Definitely. There again, it's there's a fine line of that as well. It's like, you don't want to just whine and complain. You don't want to be like the 49ers, but
No.
that's not what he was being. And that's not how he phrased it too. So especially if you're listening to the interview in the context of it, it's not like he's, trying to rehash something or make something out of, just thin airs there. So he, at the end of the game too, I mean, he was like the first one that went over to Andy Reid and gave him props for winning the Super Bowl, gave him a big hug. So, he's all class. We know that.
Right.
BG's all class. So, I don't make too much out of it. And I think that to most observers, there's a little bit of like, what the heck was wrong with the field? And it impacted both teams. Don't get me wrong, but just look at some percentages. But even regardless, if we don't want to go down that rabbit hole of conspiracy theories, it still would have been interesting to see on a neutral playing field, a legit neutral playing field that actually worked the way it's supposed to.
Right.
How does a defense with 70 sacks end up doing against Patrick Mahomes? I think it would have been better. And BG even, I think he said on one of those, like, oh, we watched it back that Sweaty was going to have 1 or 2 sacks easily and he slipped both times or whatnot. So, but it's a what it could have, should have. And I think we move on.
What are you going to do? Yeah, right. There's nothing that we can do about it besides sit back here, reminisce, and be upset about it. Danto Dragon, 5 entries into the ticket giveaway. Tickets
Got
and
you
all
down.
the beer you can drink. No, just tickets, right? Goodness gracious. They're trying to run us dry on this ticket giveaway.
I know it. I will buy you a beer if you come to the game that we're going to. So
Okay,
I'll throw that
fair.
out there. If
Yeah,
you win a ticket and you want to
that's
go to
fair.
the game that we're at, I'll buy you a beer.
1, not all. All that you can drink. Goodness gracious.
Yeah,
Some of you guys could really bankrupt us if we went ahead with that
especially if they're going to drink as much as Kelsey did today. My gosh, did you see the beer chugging there?
I would not be okay.
What was it? Was that 30 ounces that he chugged? I think it was in like 4 seconds or what. It was crazy.
Bloating alone would have been nuts. I mean, goodness gracious. But he's also like a very big man who, pushes big men for a living. Yeah, a lot more than you and I do. That's for sure. A Heaven says, what is your intro song? Like on my show? I don't know the name of it. It comes from artist.io.com. I have no idea what it's called.
And Devontae apparently enjoys it as well. So
Devontae Smith loves it. So, that's the most important thing. Are you guys concerned about?
I don't know what mine is either. So I
no idea. No idea. It's one of the ones that you got to pay for access to and, not get in trouble for, which obviously we do that. So you guys concerned about the play calling going back to Nick? No, but Colin Cowherd is. Do you see the Colin Cowherd segment on the one team that's going to take a step back this year, being Philadelphia? And his reasoning was you might get injured, which is like, okay, sure. I mean, that's everybody. And then our offensive line is old, which everybody's under the age of 25, except for Lane Johnson and Jason Kelsey. So I don't know how the offensive line is old. And Lane Johnson's not even old. It's just Kelsey. But if one player is too old and the other 4 are like all pros or close to it, okay, that doesn't make any sense. And then he says schedule. Okay, sure. We say every week the schedule's harder. And I think that was it. Those were his 3 reasons why Philadelphia is going to. And then he did say that the play calling goes back to Sirianni. They were bad when he called plays year 1. He gave the play calling away, and they got better the second half of the year. And then he didn't call plays at all this year, and they were much better. So, but of course, Sirianni's not calling plays. Brian Johnson's calling plays, right? So, it's like it's not Sirianni calling plays at all. It'll be Brian Johnson, which was on the sideline last year and probably a lot of the game plan also. So, I don't know.
Completely.
Sure, it could happen. Sure, I don't know.
There's always the theory, and it's not even that much to go out on a limb and say, oh, they could slip a little bit, or they could fall back to earth somewhat, because especially when you had a season that was 14-3, like that's very hard to repeat. But like, how far of a slip up are we talking about? And so I don't know. I think this is, again, like what we alluded to at the open. This is the time of year where there's not a whole lot to talk about. So as you're prepping for a show, I can only see where Colin Cowherd's like, Eagles are interesting to talk about. Let's see. Let's come up with some sort of narrative. What's the dangers, the possibilities, and just throw something out there. But, as most of the time that happens, especially with the national talking heads, they know the team to a certain extent, but they don't know it very in depth. And so they make some comments like a very old, aging offensive line or some Nick Sirianni's calling plays and things that are like, well, that's not actually true if you dug into it a little bit further. But it sounds good and it makes for a sound bite. And then all of a sudden, you have Cowboys fans that want to take it and run with it. And, that happens. So I think it's more just the time of the year. And, you always have teams, especially or guys that want to talk about teams like the Eagles that are very favorite right now to be talking about it, be in the news.
Do you have a team, speaking of other teams, do you have a dark horse team? Because he was talking about a team that takes a step back. NFC, team that we think is going to be bad this year, but you can make an argument for them being good. Obviously thinking lower part of the screen here, because these were the guys, win-loss. Detroit does not count because we all think Detroit's going to be really good. Give me somebody on this list that might be a lot better than we would think right now.
I'll go with the Bears. I really think that what did they led the league, I think, last year in losses. What was it, like 1-score game losses or something like that? So, and maybe that might be an easier pick to say they're 3-14, so they better get a little bit better. And you got some trades and some acquisitions there too. So, but I think that they could be in a spot where they're close-ish to a playoff spot. Again, if you look at their division too, it's kind of like, there's Detroit, and are the Vikings going to do anything? I think they're gonna take a step back from what they did last season. But maybe they could be right up there, flirting with a 500 record, trying to get in for a wild card. But I do think that Chicago is going to make improvements. Now, will we see Justin Fields be Jalen Hurts like all the Bears fans are saying? I don't know. Let's hold off on that. But I do think that team will take a step up.
A lot of people are going to say, like the Atlanta Falcons. I saw Tyler say that down below with Bijan Robinson. They need a quarterback that can actually step up. Ritter has a lot of expectations, and if he's bad, that offense will continue to be bad. I think the Rams can be good this year. I think we discount Sean McVay a lot, and we discount Matt Stafford. If Stafford's healthy, and they have Kupp, Stafford, and Sean McVay, any other year, you're at least giving them a puncher's chance. Now, they've lost people. They're not going to be this juggernaut that you can't beat, and you're scared to death of playing their defense. But I could see the Rams being pretty good as well for picking from the bottom here. Mm-hmm. Arizona will not be good. Maybe the Saints, but I guess if they struggle, Derek Carr's wife will cry again. I mean, that was a thing this week, so you got to keep an eye out for that one.
Yeah, that was a weird, interesting article that came out. The Raiders definitely did not treat him very well, nor his wife, I guess. But
I guess not a good look when you make someone your star quarterback's wife cry. That's not a good look at all. Shout out to what's his name? Jonathan Gannon bought a $10 million house in Arizona this week. Did you see that?
I did see that. It doesn't feel like a good investment.
Maybe not. I mean, those are cool houses in Arizona. As someone who is
I don't know how long he'll be there.
Yeah, I'm looking for a house. I wish I had $10 million to spend on a house. Make my life a lot easier. $10 million. What's the closing cost on a $10 million home? What's your monthly mortgage rate on a 10? Unless you're putting down like 50%, then it's not as bad, right? But
true, but I
mean 10% on 10 million. What's your mortgage payment? Holy cow! I wish I was a really bad defensive coordinator that screwed my team over and still got a head coaching job in Arizona. I would sign me up. I would love to do that. That'd be great. It would be very fun. Shout out to David Moore, who is, now we're getting the
David, what's
here.
up?
David shouting out his wife 50 entries into the jersey giveaway or the ticket giveaway.
Shout out to Latoya.
His amazing wife. You are my world and I love you. Oh my goodness.
There you go.
Is big stuff.
That's how you do it.
That's how you do it right there. That's better than flowers on Valentine's Day, I would say. Like, you can get flowers, but flowers are temporary. Flowers die. Super chats live forever. She can go back and watch this moment on our live stream for decades. I mean, literally decades.
If she wanted to, sure.
I think she should. I would do it every day. Shout out, though, seriously, to Latoya. Hopefully, David will take you to an Eagles game if he wins tickets from this $50 super chat. So we have you down, David. We appreciate that very, very much. Okay. More questions here. Let's get some more questions. Bears and Falcons, when talking about teams that potentially could be, better than people think. Should we do AFC real quick just because we're here? AFC? Do you have an AFC team that could be better? Boy, this is tough. Cleveland?
Interested to hear what you think about this, but I think Denver. I know that Russell
That's
Wilson
fine.
played miserably last season, but reports are that he's in much better shape. He's slimmed down. He's ready to go. I don't know, but he's got Sean Payton there. It just feels like if he's going to do something and if he's going to prove that last season was a fluke, it's going to
Yeah.
be this year. So, will they end up beating the Chiefs and winning the division? Probably not. But, it's not too difficult, I would think, to improve from a 5-12 record. So I could see Denver getting into a playoff spot.
I think that that's fair. I do think that people are really overselling Sean Payton a little bit. I mean, they're making it like the second coming of NFL coaches is suddenly,
Yeah.
going to fix Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson's a good quarterback, had a bad year last year, and can really fix himself and make Sean Payton look a lot better and more impactful than he actually will be. Nothing against Sean Payton. Sean Payton's fine. But Russ was great except for 1 year, and we act like Russ stinks always, and it was literally just one season. So, but yeah, I think Denver can. I think 9 is the magic number there. Anything more than 9 would be extreme overachievement in that division. I'll throw the Browns out there just because maybe Deshaun Watson can actually be good 3 years later. Other than that, though, I mean, geez, Titans won't be good. Texans won't be good. Colts are going to be an up and down, whirlwind with a rookie quarterback. Maybe Pittsburgh, but they won 9 games last year. So it's hard to say Pittsburgh's a dark horse. They won 9 games and got better. So I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. Donatello Dragon, 2 more entries. If I see Gannon around, it's on site. Maybe Donatello Dragon lives in Arizona. You can go to his, to tell us if you see him.
Got you down.
We got you down for the entry into the ticket giveaway. Boom, up on your screen. It's on site. I mean, what would you say if you walk past Jonathan Gannon on the streets of Dallas, Texas? And
what would I say?
You and him. What would you say to him?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Easy. That'd be very easy. You'd walk right here. Pew, 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 pew. There you go. I mean,
you wouldn't do that. No. What would you actually say to him?
I don't know. It would catch me by surprise.
Yeah.
There's so many times that I've seen someone that, whether it's a celebrity or, just someone that's like, oh, it'd be nice to meet that person. Then you see him and then you're like, oh, you freeze. And so maybe there wouldn't be the starstruck with Gannon, but I would have to probably premeditate. That may sound very negative there, but premeditate like what I'm going to say to him. So let's be fair of what I'm talking about. But I don't know. I probably wouldn't care too much to say anything to him, really. I mean, he's irritating. I don't think that he's the best leader. I think that obviously he had some issues on the defensive side of the ball with the adjustments for sure. So I don't know. And why on earth, I guess, would he be in Dallas? But if I saw him, it'd probably be one of those where I would film him and just see what else he does, because he'd probably make fun of himself or make a fool of himself without me having to do anything. I just film him and who knows, he walks up to somebody else. And
who's the most famous person you've seen in person? Who's number one on the, but besides, like, because you and I both have covered sporting events, and besides athletes, have you seen non-famous athletes? Because I've seen a lot of it. I ran into Emmitt Smith in the Dallas airport one time, but that doesn't count. We need like famous non-sports person.
Yeah. Gosh, that's a good question. I ran into, I'm trying to think who this was. So we both went to New York and we were part of the Baylor program there. They did the film festival. Steve Carell. That'd probably be,
that's a big one.
I mean, that'd be, yeah. So he was there and he was debuting, what was it? Foxcatcher? Is that I think that's, Foxcatcher is the name of the movie. The DuPont situation. I'm sure some people have seen it. Come on, let me know in the chat if you've seen the movie. It was pretty good, but it was very unusual for Steve Carell, like parts that he plays. It was kind of a darker, based on a true story.
Okay.
But yeah, he was there to like, I guess, reveal or kind of have the moment with the group there in the film festival. So I would say that's probably, just thinking off the top of my head. There may be somebody else, but that's up there. I love The Office. So
that's a pretty big one. David Rhodes said Muhammad Ali and Bush 45. Those are pretty big. I also have met Bush 45. I shook Bush 45's hand back in the day while he was president. So I will second David beating 45. I met Bill Murray in person at a Baylor basketball game. The person I met was probably Bill Murray.
Was that when they played Xavier? Was that okay? Yeah.
There's a secret. If you ever meet Bill Murray, I was told this before I got to meet him by his handler. If you want to go talk to him and get a picture, you must walk up and introduce yourself to him, or he will not talk to you. So you can't just go, Bill Murray, can I take a picture? You have to go, hello, my name's Thomas. And he goes, hi, I'm Bill Murray. And then you can shake his hand. That's the Bill Murray rule. Huh. We were instructed while we waited in line to say hi to him in the Baylor basketball tunnel. You must introduce yourself.
That's good to know.
If you ever run into him, he's like 90. But if you ever run into Bill Murray, you must do it. Okay. Enough with celebrities. Although keep telling us who you guys might have seen. If you ever run into the most famous person that you've run into, it'd be fascinating to see where you guys are at. Pick 6. Brett says Texans could be better, not playoff wise. Definitely 8 and 9. They get DeAndre Hopkins. That could be very, very true.
Mm-hmm.
Very true. Somebody said earlier, how can I join your fantasy league with the subscribers? Okay. We have not figured this out yet.
Good question.
We are trying to figure out how to have a fantasy football league with both of our subscribers. All we know is it will be multiple fantasy football leagues. We cannot do one league because there are 20,000 subscribers between the both of us. And a lot of you guys have messaged me on Twitter saying you want to do this. So I think we might try and do 100 people and break that into maybe 5 20-person leagues. Josh and I will both be in each one, active in each one. And it'll be some sort of buy-in with a prize, winner take all at the end sort of thing. That's all we know yet. It's too early. We are for sure doing it, and we will let you know how to get your slot. But that's coming down the road. So
more to come. It's going to be a blast, but yeah, I think we're just figuring out obviously what the logistics of it and what that looks like.
And maybe I was thinking about this
so many leagues I can manage.
Right. Yeah, we can't have 10 leagues with 20 people in them, right? I mean, come on, it's ridiculous. One thing I will say though is that there is a chance where we would winner take the money. Second and third place are guaranteed in next year. So you kind of keep your slot for the next year's fantasy football league because otherwise you're going to get rotated out. It's like being in the Premier League. So chances there.
All right, a little relegation action. I like that.
Yeah, it could be some relegation action. With the fantasy league. We'll let you know. It's it's what? Although it is almost July. I will say that.
We're getting there. Slowly but surely. We're getting
less than a month from training camp. Do you think that training camp for Philadelphia, do you think it's going to be like, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. Do you think there'd be big storylines early? You think there's going to be somebody really turning heads at training camp? Or are we going to kind of get like, oh, Hurts looks good. Oh, this player looks good. Or are you going to have like some big shocking news early on of training camp because somebody looks absolutely insane that you were not expecting to happen?
That's a good question. I don't know. It's hard to say because I love the fact that Nick Sirianni is always very positive and he's talking about the players and he's hyping them up and everything else. But sometimes it's hard to read between the lines and say, okay, like, is this legit or is this just you talking about players and being happy, excited about them because, they're on your squad? Because he said that about a lot of players and some of them make impacts and some of them don't even play. And so it's just hard to say. But I lean towards we won't hear too much in the beginning. It won't be over the top. Now, it wouldn't shock me if one of the names that does start to pop up very early in training camp is Quez Watkins, because I feel like there's some sort of campaign that they're doing here that they did kind of in OTAs, and maybe it's a, hey, let's go ahead and pump this guy up too. We do believe in him, but I think there's an extra like motivational or maybe psychological thing with we need to make sure that Quez feels like we are behind him 100%. And so maybe after the first couple of practices, it's, oh my gosh, yes, Quez is ready for a breakout season. He's going to be awesome. But I don't know. I mean, outside of that, I do feel like it's just going to be kind of, okay, hey, it's some good things, some bad things, nothing crazy. And then hopefully towards the latter part of it, we do start seeing some names that surprise us.
David Rhodes says he thinks there'll be a ton of hype with Georgia players plus Swift and Penny. That Swift and Penny could really give you some hype, because I think the Georgia players are a given. Like, I mean, you saw it at OTAs. Any video of Nolan Smith running in a circle was like the greatest video ever created by mankind. I mean, I got like 55,000.
Which it was. It was.
No, I know. I'm not saying I didn't like it. Just saying that we freaked out when he ran around that cone real fast. It was like, oh my gosh, he's the best. But
yeah. And Jalen Carter obliterated a blocking sled. Didn't even break it, but just the fact that, he's strong. God. And, a lot of other NFL players use the blocking sled, but it's different whenever the Georgia players are like,
please, dude, please talk about the Eagles.
Anything.
Goodness gracious. Oh my goodness.
That's a good point though that Dave brings up for definitely Swift and Penny. Like, I mean, Swift had some hype obviously with the trade, and you can loop him in there. It's weird because like he went to Georgia, but it doesn't feel like he's a part of the like recent Georgia hype, because of the players. But still, he is the Georgia player. But he got a little bit more hype because again, he's going to make some impact in the passing game, and 7-on-7s is a lot more about that than it is for someone who's going to be running the football. So I think that's a great point, especially with Penny. We didn't hear much at all about Rashad Penny or see any pictures or anything of him anywhere really. And that was the a little bit alarming thing, but I'm not shocked, or I'm not just saying, okay, well, this is in danger of him being cut. But I do think that, okay, you know what, once the pads come on, we're actually able to see a little bit more from the running back position that, maybe Rashad Penny can hopefully showcase that. And then he's going to be able to just parlay that into the preseason games. I can't wait to see him run behind this O-line. Again, it may not be super, involved in the preseason, so it may not even be till the regular season, but I am very hyped up for him and his physicality for sure.
I've not been this excited for preseason football, watching actual Eagle preseason games since Carson Wentz's rookie year. That was the last time where I was like dying to watch people play in preseason, right? Because last year,
Yeah.
you have a big defensive tackle and a center for your first 2 picks. And it's like, okay, whatever. But the Wentz year, because he's a quarterback, and every time a rookie quarterback plays in preseason, people love to watch it, and I'm all for it. I'll love to watch Bryce Young when he gets his preseason debut, and all the quarterbacks. But this is the year where you're like, let's see what these rookies can do, because it feels like you're going to get some excitement and some plays, and not just the rookies, but also a guy like Rashad Penny, and I think you throw DeAndre Swift in there as well. I'm with you on that. Hold that thought here as Elfence with a $5 entry into our ticket giveaway. 2 tickets to any Eagle game you want. We'll announce the winners sometime during the preseason. I want to see Milton Williams take a big step this year heading into year 3. It feels like Milton Williams is heading into year 7, but he is only year 3, right? We talk about Devontae Smith's year 3 going to be, MVP level, best receiver in the league caliber, whatever, exaggerate a little bit there. But, Milton Williams could be an impactful player this year. Javon Hargrave, you lose him, it's a big deal. But when you have people backed up behind him, that doesn't feel like a big deal. Any other year, you'd feel like losing Milton or Javon Hargrave would be a mega thing. And this year it was like, whatever, because you got Carter, you have Jordan Davis here too, and now Milton Williams year 3. You have a rookie, a second-year guy, and a third-year guy all ready to fill that gap to replace one person. It feels like it's going to be less of a thing.
It does, yes, and it's definitely adds to the fact too about the rotational play. So that's the danger with this team, and why they're so dynamic is the fact that there is rotational guys and next man up, and everybody's staying fresh. So I'm excited to see it. And Milton Williams, he gets overlooked, no doubt. I mean, you talk about the guys with the Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, Fletcher Cox, these guys who are actually going to be or have been talked about quite a bit. But Milton Williams has seemed to kind of, float under the radar a little bit. I've seen some videos, some content, some tweets about him, but not near the hype as some of the other guys that I mentioned. So it'll be interesting to see, with a little bit more playing time. I think that he could be dominant. I think that he could be very dynamic and be able to put him in different spots. So, we'll see what he can do with that. But I know that he's ready and wanting to make an impact too. So sometimes all it takes is you get one guy like a Javon Hargrave to move away. Sure. Granted, you're adding Jalen Carter, but there's a little bit of a next step up that you take. And so hopefully we see that from Milton in year 3.
Donatello Dragon, 2 more entries into the ticket giveaway. Calling it right now, Hassan Reddick, Defensive Player of the Year. It does feel like
I hope so.
He has some really good odds to do it. I mean, the numbers were basically there, right? You take away a couple of sacks from who led the league last year? Was it Bosa? It was Bosa, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take away 2 from Bosa, and there's a real argument there for Hassan Reddick. I think he's not underrated. He's just not talked about. We just don't talk about him when we talk about elite pass rushers. We talk about all the other ones that you can name in a heartbeat, the Aaron Donalds of the world and the Micah Parsons, and obviously you just talked about Nick Bosa, but people don't say Hassan Reddick when you talk to them casually. And I think this might be the year where every single time you talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, it's like, how you stop Hassan Reddick, because that guy ruins my life. So I agree. I hope so too.
I do too. And again, to your point, and what we're making right there is like, he's very impactful. And then you add it with the Sean Desai system and where he's going to get moved around, he could be even more dangerous. And then, like Hassan has said, I think multiple times on Twitter, but he's saying, hey, we're just getting started. So again, lots of players will make statements and it's like, okay, you got to back that up. But I have no reason to doubt it. I mean, what he was able to do, and this is the first time that he's going to stay with a team. The fact that he has double-digit sacks with 3 different teams, and he's not ever stayed after getting the double-digit sacks. He's moved on to a consecutive team. This is the first time with any sort of, I guess, somewhat consistency. I know he's got a different defensive coordinator, but at least he's staying with the same unit. So I'm hyped about it. I think it wouldn't shock me at all. I don't know what the odds are actually on the defensive player of the year. That may be something
I think he's like 4.
To sprinkle a little action on.
He might be 4. I think like the 4th best odds. Yeah. Because I mean,
see about that.
Yeah, you got to look it up. That could be interesting. A Heaven says, what do you think of the Titans and their throwback jerseys? I know they're doing the Oiler jerseys this year, but I've not seen I just Googled it. There is no release of the Oiler jerseys yet. So I'm sure they'll be cool, but the Titans won't be. The Titans are going to stink this year. So you know,
Yeah.
is what it is. Will Levis and his world famous girlfriend are going to have to save the day because it's not going to look good in Tennessee. Alfonso jumping in with 10 more
Unless
entries
you
into
believe in
the
Malik Willis, but
unless which I
he's
I believe.
he's been looking better apparently. But
Has he?
again, do you
Is
buy
that
into that hype?
is
There
that
was
a
a tweet
report?
about it. There was a tweet about it.
Was
Yeah,
it really?
they said he's got more
Jeez.
confidence. I don't know if it was the NFL Rookie Watch or something like that, but
Oh
yeah, somebody was
no.
saying he's got a little bit more confidence. Maybe he's a different player, but I don't know. That's
Boy, we
all
talk
hype
about
to me.
propaganda. Holy cow. That's coming from the Titans themselves. That is prime
They're trying to
June
trade him. Is what they're
propaganda.
doing. They're like, hey,
Holy cow.
he's still good.
He looks great, guys. We promise. Oh my goodness. I wish we could keep him. We just can't. Would you like him? We would
Are you
love for you to
interested
have
in the
him.
trade?
Jeez. Alfonso with 10 more entries. Do you think the Eagles can create a dynasty now or in the near future? Dynasty's a really tough word because there aren't a lot of true dynasties. The Patriots were a true dynasty, and you could make an argument the Warriors were as well. Those were your two true dynasties during our lifetime. And for those of you NASCAR fans, Jimmy Johnson was also a dynasty because he won a ton of championships in NASCAR. So shout out to NASCAR fans. But besides that, there hasn't been a true dynasty, right? There hasn't been a team that genuinely just rolled through everybody, consistently went to championships, not named the Golden State Warriors, and of course the New England Patriots. So I think dynasty is a word that you can't really use in this scenario. I think you can use the word great, and you can make the argument Philadelphia's been great since the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl year and then forward, the Philadelphia Eagles have been fantastic. They've been really, really good. They've made what, 1, 2, 3, is it 4 playoff, 5 now? In the 6 years since the Super Bowl, there was the one down year, and they had the divisional round drop from Alshon Jeffrey that could have really changed things. I truly believe they go not only to the NFC title game, but they go to the Super Bowl again, and that changes the whole course of our lives. Obviously, you make it back in terms of, what was it, the Carson Wentz injury year against the Seattle Seahawks. Then you go again this past season or 2 years ago against the Bucs, and you go again this year and make a Super Bowl. That's as close to a modern day dynasty as you can get in the NFL, consistently going to Super Bowls. Now, the Chiefs are up there as well. They're beginning to do that. I think they're basically there. But you take away Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady, nobody else does this in the NFL in terms of getting to Super Bowls consistently in a 5-year span. Is there a team besides the Chiefs and Patriots during our lifetime that made it to multiple Super Bowls in under 5 years? I don't think there is. I mean, can we could look it up. I'm trying to think of a team and help us out in the chat.
I mean, the Steelers are one that was thrown out there, but I'd have to look up and see.
But did they make it?
I mean,
let's see. Okay, let's think of a team looking for teams been in multiple Super Bowls over a short span, not named Kansas City and not named the Patriots. Besides us, right?
I mean, Pittsburgh's
Rams,
a decent amount.
Rams. Sure, that they did it twice, won one, lost one. So that's a very good equivalent to Philadelphia. You mentioned Pittsburgh. Okay. Denver for a 2-year stretch. Pittsburgh, 2-year stretch or a 2-season stretch. And that's it. And you see there. So there are 3 teams. Rams did it twice in under a 5-year span. We did it twice. Denver did it twice, and then one more, Pittsburgh. So no one's gotten past that 2 in about a 5-year span. So if Philly goes past that, then we can start using bigger words than just great. But right now, I think we're in a prime era of Eagles football that could go very, very far with Jalen Hurts and go a lot further than we think. Dynasty's just tough because there's one true dynasty, New England, and no team's close to it. I mean, you've got to win 6 Super Bowls in a 20-year span, and we got a lot of Super Bowls to go to get to that number.
True, yes. And I think it comes down to also the point of like, what do we actually define a dynasty as? Because the Patriots probably did a disservice to everyone else because as soon as you see that, it's okay, well, that's obviously a dynasty. But then is that the rubric for every other team? And if it is, then it's like, well, okay, no one's really going to come close to that. It's going to be near impossible. It's going to take a whole lot of everything. And, whether you believe in the Deflate Gate or everything else that went on, but still there's a lot that goes into actually having that happen. So, I think there's a lot of teams there that, yes, you could say, okay, there's a couple Super Bowls that they either made it to or that they won. You got the Giants, you've got the Seahawks, the Steelers.
Giants too.
So there's several teams, but I don't know. I don't know where I'm at in terms of like, do I say that's a dynasty or not? The thing that I do really get behind is the fact that this core group looks like it's set up for many years of success, not only looking at Jalen Hurts' contract, but that's kind of the main one you go
Right.
to, obviously, with it being a quarterback. But there's those 4 seasons before you have to do a restructuring or an extension or just figure something out cap space wise. But that gives you a whole lot of time with this group that's in play. And there's other contracts you're going to have to renegotiate. There's extensions that'll happen, but also making acquisitions and adding pieces via the draft. And next year, we know we have crazy amount of draft picks. So, I don't know if I would say, or I'm ready to just, come out and say, yes, it's a chance for a dynasty, but I think that all the makings are there to be very successful. It's like, at what point do you define it as someone being a dynasty? And I don't know, but I'm going to take where we're at for sure, because the hype is there. The hype is real. There's lots of talent on this team. Now it just comes to, okay, can we get back to the Super Bowl? Can we be, what is it? Like there's only 3 teams, I think, that were able to make it back to the Super Bowl after, losing in the Super Bowl the previous year. So can we be one of those teams first? And then can we get the job done this time? So I don't know. I'm believing this team. I'm believing being led by Jalen that it can happen. But then you start talking about beyond that. I don't know. It's very hard to win in this league. It's incredibly hard to win in this league. So dynasty is like next level.
Dynasty is next level. And getting back to the Super Bowl is the litmus test. We do forget how many great quarterbacks that are out there that never made it back. I mean, Aaron Rodgers never made it back. Drew Brees never made it back. I mean, just because you have a great quarterback like we think Philadelphia has, doesn't guarantee it. They have got to build rosters around him and keep it as elite as humanly possible. And like you said, the core guys that are there are signed for at least the next 3 years, right? Some will go 2, but the majority of them are 3. AJ Brown, Dallas Goedert, Josh Sweat, the offensive line minus Kelsey, Lane Johnson's there for 3 years. I mean, everybody, Vontae Smith, they're all there for the next 3 years. This is your window to try to make it back. Really, the expectation is they must go back to the Super Bowl in the next 3 years. You don't have to go back this year, although we all are expecting it and we want it. You have 3 years to make it back, truly. And
that's true. Yeah.
Minimum 5. Next 5 years, you have to go back. Next 3 years, though, or else people are going to start to get really impatient because the roster is way up here and, age and money could start to drag it down a little bit, even if you have a great quarterback. So,
yeah, you're going to lose that flexibility that you have now. There's lots of flexibility in the current moment, but it dwindles with each season and that window of opportunity closes. So, yeah, I'm with you for sure. I'd say the 3-year window, that's definitely, and hopefully this year, like that's what we all want, obviously. Let's not wait.
It totally can be. Philadelphia's path. I just saw a question say the biggest threat to the Eagles in the NFC East. We talked about that and the rest of the NFC every single week we do this show. It's not that great. I mean, unless Brock Purdy can throw a football and actually be healthy this year, and unless Dak Prescott finds the next level he hasn't been able to find in 8 years with the Dallas Cowboys, or the Giants and Daniel Jones, who apparently is just as good as, Jalen Hurts, according to Michael Parsons, takes that next step.
Make up stats, too.
Yeah, well, that helps, too. But
some other random things.
There has to be a real threat to arise for it not to be Philadelphia, or you could get unlucky in the playoffs like teams do all the time, and you'll lose in the divisional round, and you'll kick yourself, and you'll move on. So, in terms of the greatest threat, though, to me, it's starting to become the New York Giants. I'm starting to buy the Giant hype a little more than I was, but the Daniel Jones train needs to get even better. Like the Daniel Jones leap has got to be this year, or else it's not Daniel Jones, and that whole rebuild will crumble because they'll have to get a new quarterback. So, if I'm picking, it's got to be one of those. Quickly here, I do want to answer the question. Someone asked about the supplemental draft. We forget the supplemental draft exists because no one good comes from that, except for who was the wide receiver always smoking pot that went on the supplemental draft. What's his name? He played for the Chiefs. The Flash Gordon. Didn't he go in the supplemental draft? Didn't he come back in the? Who was that famous player that went in the supplemental draft a couple years ago? There was a famous player. I forget who it was. I don't know who it was. See, Ohana says Josh Gordon. I thought it was Josh Gordon, but it might not be Josh Gordon.
Yeah.
It was Josh Gordon? Okay.
Yep.
Besides that, you can't name another supplemental draft person. So people asking us for supplemental draft people. Well, I did Google it. Here's your big name that people are talking about. Former Jackson State wide receiver Malachi Weidman. You recognize his name because he was a little popular there early on. Caught 12 touchdowns as a freshman. Of course, it is, Jackson State. This isn't Alabama. Let's just be real here. But There's a name, Milton Wright from Purdue, have both been approved. Apparently, though, it's July 11th. So maybe we have a live supplemental draft watch party and just go crazy watching where these people go.
Should we give away another jersey for the supplemental draft?
Yeah. Well, thousands of people watching on that one. Goodness gracious. How does it even work? I mean, you just like go up and like, hey, yeah, I'll take this guy. All right, you can have him. Is there a line? You got to wait to go get the supplemental draft people? Not a big deal.
Not probably a little bit more of a process to that.
I feel like you just go, yeah, I'll take him. Because goodness gracious, these guys aren't superstars. Derrick Henry's not waiting to come out of the supplemental draft. No offense if you get drafted and turn out to be good. Brian says, any linebackers? Probably not. Not any ones that we're going to start here. Not any ones that we're actually going to make a big difference. What do we got here? Dallas is our threat for us not to go to the Super Bowl, says Michael Heft. Okay, that's fine. I did see a report today from Dov Kleiman, saying that the Cowboys are preparing to pay CeeDee Lamb between, you saw this, $25 and $30 million a year.
Yep.
Woo! Wow, that's a lot of money. Yes.
That is a ton of money.
Cool. Have fun with that. That sounds great. $30 million for your wide receiver.
I'm in favor. I'm in favor if they want to go ahead and do that.
Sure.
But
they should pay Dak while they're at it too.
Yeah. I mean, hey, it's that. Yeah,
Jeez.
I'm for it. If they want to just keep spending money like that, sure. And not that CeeDee's a bad receiver, but that is a crazy amount of money to spend there, especially for. I know he moves around some, but you're playing him at the slot a lot, so. We'll see. I don't know.
CeeDee's the scariest Cowboy. Sorry, real quick. I mean, everyone talks about Micah Parsons. Micah hasn't done much against the Philly tackles. Like he gets neutralized pretty easily. The scariest
hard to do much against them
is CeeDee Lamb. So CeeDee's great. I love CeeDee Lamb, but you pay the $30 million. Okay, have fun.
Mm-hmm. No, that's true. Now, I was gonna say shout out to Joey Shakes. He's there in the chat here.
There he is.
2024 draft is huge with having 11 to 12 draft selections. Could open the Eagles window even more.
Definitely
absolutely agree. Yes,
it could. Yes, sure.
And seeing what Howie does with the picks, right? I mean, that's the other part to it. It's not even just that you have that many selections.
Right.
It's who's the brain trust there that's actually moving these draft picks or making some deals or trading and everything else. So yeah, I mean, it just you think this year's draft was crazy. You give Howie that many selections next year, it's going to be wild. I can't wait for that, and hopefully it's coming right off of a Super Bowl. And can you imagine someone's going to, wow, the Eagles won the Super Bowl. Last season, they lost the Super Bowl, but then they have 2 first-round draft selections. Then they win the Super Bowl, and they have 12 draft selections. Like, it's already unfair, and it'd just be ridiculous.
And they already have their quarterback under contract, the receivers under contract, their offensive line is just going to be next man up because you have Cam Jurgens and Tyler Steen. Like, it's not a big deal. I will say this, though. Next year's draft is a prime trade out of the first round for more first-round draft picks in the next draft because of the 11 other ones they're going to have that you can use to move up into the second round and kind of dink and dime, especially if you don't have a major hole, like they might not because they address defensive line a lot this draft. It could be you're sitting at 29, say you lose in the divisional round, 28, then you could trade out for someone to come back in, have 2 the following year, and then that way each or every other year or every couple of years, Howie has multiple in case they want to mess around a little bit. Could be. You never know. I mean, geez, it's June, but whatever.
There's a lot to play with, and that's the good part, I guess. You have a lot of the equity and the capital there to do something with. So
yeah,
I'm in favor of it, but as Joey reminds us too, they have Mozzie Smith. That was one of the highlights of the draft, right?
That was the highlight of the draft because it was
there reported. Was a big letdown for a second, and like, oh wait, it's actually Mozzie Smith. Okay, thank you, Cowboys. So yeah, all the things that they do.
We want to talk about not getting a lot of hype. I mean, I did on my show a couple days ago. Where's Moro Ajomo? I mean, the guy got 0 camera time during OTAs, and yet he was like the most hyped 7th round draft pick of our lifetime. Did you see anything on Mozzie Smith from Cowboy OTAs? I mean, I don't follow a lot of Cowboy people on Twitter, but we're both from Texas, so we know people.
Yeah,
I didn't see any Mozzie Smith hype from OTAs at all.
I mean, I'll be honest. So, being in Dallas, there's a little bit more, I guess, heads up to it, especially with the local radio and whatnot and everything. They're definitely hyping up Mozzie
Are they?
Smith.
Are they really trying to?
There's a lot of, and it's some of it is not direct at the Eagles. Some of it's just, hey, we're happy about this guy. But a lot of it is, can't wait till Jason Kelsey and, whoever it is at the right guard position has to deal with this beast and, all these other things. So they're behind it. I don't know to what extent, because I found, and I did a show right after the draft to recap all of the hypocrisy from it, because how many Cowboys fans and content creators that were down on Mozzie Smith until he got selected, and then reversed and had changed their tunes of saying, oh, this is the greatest interior defensive lineman in forever. It's like, okay, let's pump the brakes a little bit, because that's not the tune you were singing a month ago when you were going through all the, scouting reports and seeing who the Cowboys needed. So it's always funny, you change the narrative, I guess, for how it is. But yeah, there's a lot of hype here around Dallas with Mozzie Smith.
Don't forget, when you talk about Big Ten players, you always have to remember there are two good schools in the Big Ten every single year. Ohio State, and they get a lot of players drafted really high who have played one tough game a year. And then Ohio State quarterbacks are always bad because they play one tough defense. That's Michigan every single year, and that's it. Same goes for Michigan defensive players, right? They play one tough offense every single season, and that's it in the Big Ten. So let's pump the brakes a little bit here with Mozzie Smith. You like to think
you're going to irritate some people with the Big Ten comment.
I'm just saying.
More than two teams.
Come on. Who else?
Well, not every year, but you got Penn State, you got Illinois.
Illinois.
I'm not saying every year. They were pretty good this last year, though. They had both the Brown brothers there.
They did. I love Sidney Brown. The Big Ten is very good. I love Sidney Brown. I don't know. It's like trying to say that Big 12 players that you and I, are fans of because we both went to Baylor are like, oh my gosh, the Big 12 players are playing some real NFL games this year, and they're losing to TCU, or TCU will lose to Baylor or something like that, and you're like, okay, we'll see. No offense to anyone's conference, but
I'm just saying you're opening yourself up. There's going to be a lot of comments now. It's like, hang on now.
Elephant said, "Hey, now Penn State."
There you go. That's what I knew it was coming. You can't make a comment like that.
Was so overrated early on in the playoff rankings. Are you kidding me? Oh my goodness! I remember when Penn State, weren't they in the top 10 at some point? Where did they finish?
Yeah. Where did they finish? I know they were in the top 10 at one point, and then they kind of
1 point
had a little shaky.
1 point. Sean Clifford's 7th season at Penn State really didn't end like you thought it would. You really thought that it was going to be different.
And that extra year, that extra COVID year, did wonders for a lot of those college players.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. They are still top 10. Are they? Did they finish end of the year top 10? Hang on. We need to.
They might have. I know there was like a little bit, and this tells you I don't watch a whole lot of the Big Ten, but I know there was a little bit of a kind of a fall off. But then I think they finished a little better.
I'm going to eat my words. Okay, Georgia, TCU,
let's see how many Big Ten teams
Michigan,
there are.
Ohio State, Bama, Tennessee. They were 7.
Okay, all right. So I knew.
Who did they lose to?
I was saying.
Who did they lose to? Let's see. Penn State schedule 2022. Who did they play? I'm not buying this. Did they play I got to remember. I got to see. Who did they? Okay, so they barely beat Purdue. Then they killed Ohio. Great. Oh, yeah, the Auburn game, right? Because Auburn was such a daunting team. I remember watching that game. I was at a bar, and it was like, oh, my gosh, Penn State's so good. And you realized it was Auburn. Central Michigan.
Yeah, they just lost to... Yeah, that's what it was. Okay, I remember it, middle of the season. But you know what? Hey, Michigan, a good team. Ohio State, good team. But then after that,
they got that
rattle off your wins.
Okay. Jeez. They did win that Rose Bowl game. Okay, maybe I'm being a little
hating
hard.
On Penn State.
I don't know. I don't think they were that good. I don't think they were as good as people think. Let's move on from hating on Penn State before people get mad. Can we get Thomas versus Josh beer chug? 2 more for Donatello Dragon. That'd be the lamest beer chug you've ever watched in your life. We'd probably lose subscribers. I know that for a fact. You don't want to see that. That'd be the lamest beer chug ever.
There's nothing impressive about that. It might be funny. Maybe people would enjoy watching it.
Lame. No, people would hate us for it. People would hate us for it. Yeah, no. Move on from the Thomas. We'll get you 2 entries, though. Maybe if you go to a game.
Got you down for the entries.
All I know, the Terps lose to 7 Big Ten teams every year. Says Luis Harris, the last word. They do. Yes, they definitely do. It happens. Penn State, a tight end linebacker factory. They're also technically a running back factory. They've had some good running backs. Speaking of Miles Sanders,
they have.
Shout out to Penn State. We are. I'm a big Penn State fan. I love them. I think they're gonna be great this year. I don't know who their quarterback is, but they're gonna be great. Big Ten's tough. They're gonna be really good this year. Mark my words. Best conference in football. Everyone knows that.
you just reversed from what you said from 5 minutes ago.
I'll say though, you want to talk college football for 2 seconds. This is the year we don't know about any of these college football teams. Georgia has a new quarterback. Alabama, I mean, there's no more Bryce Young. Caleb Williams is great, but do they have enough talent? Did they develop it fast enough? Like this is
Who
a
knows?
really interesting college football year where you might get some more parity you have in previous years. So we'll see.
It'll be fun. I always enjoy it.
The Eagles safety room flops. Do you think guys think CJ Granacci could come back to Philly? He can't keep from talking about Philly. He only signed a 1-year deal in Detroit. Maybe. It feels like he's burnt that bridge, though, doesn't it? It kind of feels like that would be just like from a humility standpoint, he just wouldn't do it because he'd have to eat a little crow, right? He'd have to kind of be like, oh, just kidding. I love the Eagles and Philly fans are great. And it'd be like, do you think that, though? Or did you not like Detroit? So,
yeah.
We'll
think
see.
he's kind of burned his bridge as well. It's
too.
The way there were a lot of other ways he could have handled it, and he chose not to. So it's I wouldn't say it's impossible because crazier things have happened with a lot of other players, but it seems very unlikely, especially with the way that went down.
Let's not forget, Detroit's the sexy pick for everybody this year. Detroit, I always say, they have to learn how to win. They have to prove to me they know how to win. They won some games last year. They have to prove they know how to win games this year. And I mean big games. When they play tough opponents, when they play teams they should beat at home, they can't mess around. And CJ could learn really quickly what it's like to be on a winning football team and being on a football team that wins sometimes. That's the question mark. Can Dan Campbell win at Detroit? And that means your division, that means playoff game, and that's kind of the expectation. Or they're firing him at the end of this year, and Detroit could be the dumpster fire that's looking for a quarterback in 2024 versus what we think it's going to be right now, and that is a very good football team. So that's my press the brakes with Detroit a little bit. They got to prove that they know how to win. They have to.
That's true. I mean, and it's totally a fair argument with what we've seen from them in many, many seasons. But I think, last season it was a very impressive. I'll say it was very impressive to see what they did the last game of the season because they didn't have a whole lot to play for in that scenario, and the Packers did to try to make the playoffs, and they went into Lambeau and ended up winning. So it speaks to, I think, the character. Does Detroit take that next step? Can they do that consistently? I don't know. And that's the question we'll all be asking. But it still wouldn't surprise me with that core, with that group, if you saw them winning their division. And like we've said, there's not as much of that competition in the NFC. So maybe they make the playoffs and kind of surprise people.
Detroit can't have this 5-game losing streak, right? This can't happen. Where really it was one win and then a bunch of L's. They rattle things off here, but this can't happen. And this right here against Carolina can't happen when you're 7-7 trying to make a playoff spot because they go to the postseason if they win this football game and when they rattle off 6 in a row instead of 3, lose 1, and then the final 2. That's what I'm talking about with Detroit. You can't do that, especially against these bad football teams when you're trying to make the playoffs in what is a weak NFC conference because they would have gone. They beat Green Bay, but they needed help earlier that day. Didn't get it because they lost to Carolina, a football team that is absolutely trash. Their leading rusher in that loss to Carolina was Jared Goff for 15 yards, by the way. So there's some. I wonder what DeAndre Swift was doing. Yeah,
that's not good. But they got Jahmyr Gibbs, so
sure
they won't have that problem. I don't think.
Robert says, "Hey guys, how about a trade for Antoine Winfield on the last year of his rookie contract? Is he a Buck? Where's Antoine Winfield? I don't know off the top of my head.
I think so.
Winfield. Is he a Buck? Let's find out. He's a Buck. I'm right. Okay, I didn't know he's at the final year of his deal. Yeah, boy.
That's what I was going to say. I didn't realize it had come up so quickly.
It's already here. So the Bucks are one of the teams that could go total Caleb Williams mode halfway through the season, right? So if Tampa stinks, which they will, and Kyle Trask doesn't save the day, and Baker Mayfield gets benched, then they are the team that could really purge, right? They could get rid of Mike Evans. They could get rid of two. They have 2 corners that are pretty good. They have a safety in Antoine Winfield that's pretty good. Sure. I don't think they would do it until they know for a fact that they're not good because their division is very winnable. And if you have an overperforming quarterback in Kyle Trask, you never know. But sure, it could be a team. But they wouldn't do it till the deadline, and they would do that in order to set up for a rebuild surrounding Caleb Williams with the right price. There will be teams at the deadline that will go all in for Caleb Williams because you're 8 games in and your team stinks. You're not going anywhere. So, and the Bucks are one of them, right? Because a lot of other teams got their quarterbacks this past year. The Bucks are definitely one of them.
Yeah. And apparently, according to all the reports, Caleb Williams is, as if we didn't already think he was, but he is definitely the player that you want to tank for, because I don't know if you've seen this, but they're saying like at this point in time, which this is the most ridiculous thing anyway, but at this point in time,
Right.
he's above and beyond where Patrick Mahomes was and Andrew Luck
Whoa.
was. So what
Patrick
does that
Mahomes.
mean? But, it's like, all right, well,
Patrick Mahomes
okay.
stunk in college his entire career. You and I covered
You weren't
Patrick Mahomes
impressed with
games.
him in college?
No,
You weren't? Really?
No, he was.
Well, he didn't have a team around
million
him, but
bucks.
I knew even
Were you?
seeing I was, because when we played Texas Tech, and I say we, like we went to Baylor. So
Yeah.
for
When
people
you
who
and
don't
I
know,
were on
we
the
both
field
went to
against
Baylor.
Texas
We,
Tech,
we
right.
we were covering the team. We were not playing on the team. But whenever Baylor played Texas Tech, it was always like Baylor's going to run him out of the stadium. Like we're going to kill him. But
Right.
he was always the one guy who's just scrambling around, making crazy plays and throwing it 60 yards in the air to someone. So
Yeah.
even back then, I was like, okay, this team's not great, but there's something that he has. So I don't know. I felt like there was something.
I always thought that he would win more, right? It was that they were supposed to be this wild card team, and they just could. And he's gonna be so great, and he never won anything. I did call at Jerry World. My claim to fame. I'll tell my grandkids that I was on the Baylor student broadcast for Mahomes versus the Baylor Bears, and he shredded us for like 5 touchdowns. And so now he'll be the greatest quarterback of all time. And it's like I was there. And then I ran into him on the sideline the year later. When he was walking by, he walked right past me as we were on the sideline when he got drafted. He was a rookie back for the Tech Baylor game. So he hadn't officially started yet, but it was like, that's Patrick Mahomes. He got drafted this year. We'll see. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. That was a long time ago, though. We both were very young. I was a baby when Patrick Mahomes was in college, which feels like forever ago. My copes with Giants Cowboy fans incredible. Both are trying to convince themselves the Eagles aren't good anymore. It is interesting to watch those guys try to convince themselves that we're not good. They're not doing a good job convincing themselves that they are good. It's that we won't be as good, which is a very, it's a take. It's definitely a tough take to do. I mean, you can do it, but it's a tough take to do.
Trying to
it's a hard one.
Grasp at anything, I suppose, especially this time of the season. But yeah, it's like, okay, try to explain to me how that's going to be the case with the acquisitions that have happened, the draft picks, and everyone else that's already been added, plus the group that's already here and returning. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not really. I think there's a lot of inconsistencies with those arguments. I think the most consistent, if you can call it that I've seen, is there. Oh, you have 2 new coordinators, which. Okay, sure, you do have 2 new coordinators, but I mean, like a lot of us have alluded to, it's like I think we're excited about, especially on the defensive side of the football, to get that new coordinator in Desai and see what he can do with this defense. It's not like we're just, super upset about losing Gannon there. Now, on the offensive side, I like Steichen. I think that he was very well deserving of the position he has now with the Colts. But, I think what both of us have echoed too, Brian Johnson, I think he's going to be great. I think the communication relationship he has with Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni's very involved. He knows the offense very well. I think this team's going to be just fine. But, again, there's still a prove it to me. You got to be able to actually go out there and do it on Sunday. So, yes, we'll see. But to your point, I mean, these arguments of saying like, oh, this team's not going to be anywhere close to what it was last season. It's ridiculous.
Speaking of prove it to me, Brian says, how about Devin Allen? He was 4th fastest at 110-meter hurdles, so he's still fast, which is a shocker. Prove it to me. Prove it to me.
He's insane.
Prove it to me on Sunday that you can play football in pads.
I don't know. He's a track star, right? Like I think that's where he's going to be. Like that, and he's great. He's one of the best in the world, but he's just not. I don't think he's going to do anything with this team.
You, people want him to be Devin Hester because he's super fast. He's not going to do that, guys. He's not going to do it. A Heaven says, did you hear anything about Dalvin Cook? Dalvin Cook is being extremely undecisive. I'm starting to think Dalvin Cook doesn't want to go to training camp, and he will wait till towards the end to go somewhere to not have to go to training camp. That's because why else hasn't he signed, right? Not like he's going to get more money if he holds out, unless he thinks there'll be an injury and then teams freak out. But you have an injury to your star running back. What do you do? Throw $10 million at Dalvin Cook week 1 of the NFL season? What? No. Yeah,
I agree. The risk reward on that's not. I don't think the return is going to be what it's worth to just say, I'm sitting out because I'm hoping that a team needs me now. So I thought we were going to get it very quickly because there was a report that the Dolphins were interested and maybe it was leaning towards that side, but then nothing's come of it yet. So I don't know, maybe in the next couple of days, but it is just a little bit, unusual by the fact that it has taken a little bit longer. But then he said he wanted to play with D-Hop. So if D-Hop's taking forever because he doesn't want to go to the Patriots now, obviously they signed Devontae Parker. yeah, maybe it's a game of chicken. Who's going to sign first? Hey, tell me which team we're going to go to. I don't know. There's no way they're going to play on the same team. There's
No,
no way.
it's not going to happen. Yeah, I mean, you try to think of teams that desperately need running backs. Most of them are excited about the undrafted guys or draft picks that they took this year. And they want to see that happen first before they give $7 million to Dalvin Cook because he wants 12 and he's going to settle for 7. And some team will be desperate enough to pay him. Miami, sure. Miami's been fine running the football. They haven't had any sort of problems running the football. Their only problem has been Tua's health. I mean, that's it. They're a good football team. So, there's been a lot of money this offseason too, and they got to pay Tua if his, concussions hold off after this season. I mean, he's due for a contract, and it'll be expensive, especially if he plays well this year. So, yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. It'll be very, very interesting.
It should be a good game. Speaking of Miami,
that's gonna be fun.
Sunday night football game.
Did you see the white Kelly Green mock jerseys on Twitter? Did you see those?
I did, which are the fake ones that they got us again. Is it fake? Releasing them. Yeah. Did you? Yeah. So the guy who initially. Okay, yeah. So the guy who initially tweeted it, and it starts to blow up, of course. And then some people wrote articles saying, "Oh, it's a leak and it might be real." And then all of a sudden, the guy says, "No, it's a company that was like 3 or 4 weeks to ship or something like that." So there was no verification on it being an actual legit, even though they look pretty good.
It looks what it's supposed to look like. I can't find that picture, but obviously this is what they will be. Minus, you'll have the Eagle logo here. I think they're gonna look sick. They look great.
I do too.
I gotta find that tweet. I don't know where that tweet is because it's the actual one.
Yeah, I saw that one too. And then the guy who had originally tweeted that was like, "Oh, they're not real." And then people at Eagles Nation had run with it. And then I think the Liberty Line, Victor Williams had posted it or maybe done an article about it. And then he was like, "Okay, but it's not legit. I think it could be a nice jersey, basically, but it's not an official
What are
release,
they waiting on?" Speaking of which, you're wearing. Oh, by the way, good timing. You're wearing the
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. What are they waiting on? Truly, what's the you want to generate make your social media team work for the next month? Have them do this.
I couldn't tell you.
That's what I would do.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, why don't we just go ahead and release it because we're all waiting for it? But I saw something, and this is going to be not helpful to anyone to the argument or to the case that I'm making here. But I saw something that there's kind of a reasoning why they would wait till like the first or second week of July. I'd have to go and see what that's even talking about, but something that kind of made sense about why they would wait till then. So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, is it possibly going to be until then? But again, it's a jersey release. Like, does it really matter that much? Can we just go ahead and move forward? Because we know that they're going to be wearing the Kelly Green, and there's only so many variations it can be. It's not this crazy, ridiculous uniform that's going to come out. So I'm with you. I'm like, at this point, let's go ahead and release it because now there's been too many fakes. So as soon as it actually does happen, I'm going to be like, is that legit?
Right. Is that the real one? Someone said, Cheesesteak called the Linc Financial Store last week. No news on when the Kelly jerseys go on sale. Yeah, they're not going to tell us. What I would do, and maybe they've already done it, is, whoever's in the building, hey, Jalen, come on, put this jersey on, get in front of the camera. Let's flash some cool social media stuff and give us some previews. But they don't want to do it yet. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? It is what it is. Again, that is the ultimate. Please give us a story during the month of June when we're talking about the alternate. It's not even the green one. It's the white one. It's
the alternate.
Which we don't even know if they're going to wear, right? We have no idea if they're going to wear a white going, away.
Hopefully they do.
Can they even wear the white helmet though? Because I thought they only get one alternate helmet.
Yeah, I think they'd have to do it with the alternate. I guess you'd wear it with the Kelly Green helmet, which I mean that'd look pretty good. I'd be a fan of it. But you've only got the 2 helmets.
Stupid. Yeah, not going to happen. All right, couple more minutes, couple more questions. You have questions, we'll end it up here pretty soon. We're already over the hour 15-minute mark. Appreciate everyone hanging out here, having some fun. Always appreciate you guys. We're hoping that next couple of shows, especially as we get to the end of July, it's going to get really fun. It's going to get really
it'll pick up then. Thankfully,
the training camp live shows are going to be a blast. When training camp has been happening and we have reports to go over, they're going to be very fun. So if you're here with us now, you got to be here with us. Here with us whenever that happens. So it's going to be a bunch of fun. We appreciate all the people that jumped in on the jersey ticket giveaway. Speaking of jerseys,
there it is.
Ticket giveaway. A bunch of people dropped their entries as we continue to get closer to when we will announce that. We don't know the date yet. It will be during preseason at some point, and it will be in time for you to, of course, pick which game you want to go to. So you will have your chance, and 2 of you will be going to an Eagles game courtesy of us.
There you go. And we may be there with you or not,
Maybe there with you
or in the stadium, but completely apart if you don't want to sit with us.
Don't want to hang out with us. That's
However
fine.
you want us to do it.
That's fine.
That'll work.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to sit with us. I want to sit by myself and focus on the game. Focus on the game, Yeah.
No distractions.
No distractions.
I think Brian brought this up earlier. I don't think that we actually got to it, but Keely Ringo's birthday was yesterday, and he was asking a question about contract, any word update on that. We both have done shows on it too, and it's kind of like,
there is no update.
No news, really, nothing going on. It would surprise me, though, if in the next, week or two we didn't see something getting done. If you look back, Cam Jurgens, I think his was right around July 4th last season.
Wow.
So although I guess Landon Dickerson's was late. Landon Dickerson almost got into August, I think, before his was signed. So it's not unusual, and so no one should be alarmed, because if you've got that high level of a prospect that just holding out, doesn't actually sign his rookie contract, it will get done. But sometimes this deal, I keep saying it, I think it's all having to do with guaranteed money, because there's not a lot of negotiation that happens. Like the way the collective bargaining agreement and the way this thing goes down is rookies are kind of slotted into a certain area, and there's not a lot of room for negotiation. So maybe with the guaranteed money, that's what they're working out. But hopefully, fortunately for Keely Ringo, the 21-year-old now, he can soon celebrate a new contract deal. So hopefully in the next couple weeks.
How much does a 4th-round pick NFL salary? We got to emphasize something here, because I think this is interesting. So we talk about, let's pull it up here. 4th-round pick will sign a contract approximately worth $4.72 million and a signing bonus of $887,000. So what's always fun to watch, I see these TikToks all the time. You're like, oh my gosh, you made $4.72 million. That's crazy. So you cut that in half with taxes, virtually. You pay your agent 10% of that. And then you have other fees and stuff that go into whether it's, your coaches, off-season, getting you ready for the draft and that sort of thing. The guy's not making a lot. So when he's starting to talk about guaranteed money, he's trying to make sure he gets every single dollar he can, because 4.72 goes to 1 very, very quickly. And if you have family that starts to call, I used to do radio shows with Hugh Douglas, who had a very interesting take today, which we didn't even talk about, the former Eagle.
Oh, yeah.
And he told me, he said, Tommy, because he always called me Tommy. He said, Tommy, people come out of the woodworks when you get money. All of a sudden, Uncle so-and-so always loved you. He always did. And he really wants some of that money that you just got in the NFL. And if you're a first-round draft pick and got 22, you're like, okay, Uncle so-and-so, you're a 4th-round pick. You got 4, and half of it went to, Fannie Mae. You're like, Uncle, no, you can't have any of my money because there ain't a lot left. So he's just trying to get his money. That's fine. That's fine. Let's finish with that, though. Hugh Douglas said today that he would rather take Vic over Nick Foles in one game to win it all, which got a lot of hate because Foles won a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. What are we doing here? That to me is a totally legit comment. Now you can argue Foles did have 2 of the greatest quarterback performances in 2 single games ever. But we would all take prime Vic over prime Foles. I think most of us would, right? I don't know if there's an argument there.
Yeah, I mean, yes, if you're looking at both of them in their prime, but I guess the hard part of the argument is only one of them has the Super Bowl. So, I can see in all the comments, you have them on both sides. And I saw whatever he made it on Twitter as soon as that got announced, and there was polls and people going crazy. But it's understandable. But you have some people on the side of saying, again, Nick Foles won the Super Bowl. He stood in the pocket. He has a different way of playing the game. And the way the Patriots played the Eagles there was, we're going to force Nick Foles to throw all over the field and have to stay in the pocket. And obviously he did. He picked the defense apart. Now that we were running and gashing the defense, so the offense was clicking on all cylinders. But it's just hard, and it's impossible, obviously, to know. But just say, oh, let's insert Vic into that offense, and what happens? Is it as good? Is it better? Is it worse? Who knows? But it is an interesting argument. But there's a lot of people that, that caused a stir in a very aggressive way of like, I love Vic, but no, or the other way of saying, like, who could you ever argue that Foles would be better than a prime Vic? So I don't know. For me, I'm like, again, it's a hypothetical, but this is the time of the season where we like to talk about these things. But the things that Vic was able to do, a prime Vic, again, let's be honest. Like, as much as I love Nick Foles, as much as I love Saint Nick, he's not prime Vic.
Prime Vic for me is 2010 too, because he could stay in the pocket and win from the pocket, right? That is prime Vic. I would take prime Vic over Foles. Foles, I think, caught lightning in a bottle. You go back and watch the film of the Super Bowl. It was on NFL Network 3 days ago. I think it was 3 days ago, last week. You
Mhm.
watch that game and it's like, it wasn't sustainable. And you could just tell that's why they went back to Carson Wentz. They knew defenses would start to figure this thing out. Now, Saints game was, again, lightning in a bottle. I don't know why defenses freaked out when they played Foles, but sustainability. But maybe if it's just one game, you need to. It's stupid. I hate it. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. It's so pointless to and not applicable to anything that matters in life. But people did get mad about it, and people get mad about things. So it is what it is.
It's always interesting to play the hypothetical game. So
we have about a month left to play in the hypothetical game, and we will have no more hypotheticals once the training camp stuff happens. So it is what it is.
There might be a little bit, but not near as many.
Not near as many. All right, guys, that's all the time we have for on this edition of the Wednesday Linc Live. Back next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We'll have shows the rest of the week. Be sure to check those out on both of our channels. Subscribe. We'll see you guys in the next one. We're out of here.
We'll see you.